Welcome back to BLOCKTV. This is Black Hats, where I uncover all the hacks, scams, and frauds happening in the cryptosphere. The city of Baltimore has bought a $20 million cyber insurance plan in case hackers infect their computers with ransomware again. This comes months after Baltimore's computers were taken down by an attack, costing the city approximately $18 million in damages. They couldn't access their computers to write tickets. They couldn't access their computers to even accept payments for bills relating to the community's big losses. Now, they aren't the only ones either. The Wall Street Journal reported earlier that a majority of the 25 most populous U.S. cities had cyber insurance or were looking into buying cyber insurance. And it's easy to see why. The past year has seen a major increase in ransomware attacks against both state and local governments. They have big pockets and have been relatively easy targets up until now. Although it must be noted that these insurance policies might actually lead to victims being more likely to pay the hackers' ransoms and in return leading to more incentive for attacks. So we'll see how this story develops. Crypto investor Michael Turpin is a man I've discussed before on this show. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't good news. Turpin was famously the victim of a SIM swapping scam where thieves convinced AT&T, his cell phone provider, to give them access to his phone number, and then they utilized that access to get into his various accounts to steal $24 million in cryptocurrencies. Now, Turpin is back in the news after he wrote a personal plea to FCC Chairman Ajit Pai, urging him to force the phone companies to make changes that will protect customers from these SIM swapping attacks. Turpin suggests making passwords unavailable to phone company employees and to force customers to go through a company's fraud department before transferring their SIM information to a new phone. As it stands right now, it's way too easy for these hackers to switch and take control of phone numbers using SIM swapping. Now, Turpin currently has a lawsuit against AT&T seeking $23.8 million in compensatory damages, as well as $200 million in punitive damages. So far, AT&T lawyers have been dragging his case out with various motions to dismiss. Turpin hopes that the FCC will take on this SIM swapping problem with the same gusto that it brought to its fight against robocalling. Turpin cheekily said he doesn't know anyone losing millions from robocalling. Who knows when the FCC will get its act together? In the meantime, what I suggest you can do is you can protect yourself by utilizing an authenticator app like Google Authenticator, which blocks the SIM swapping scheme. Catherine Huan, a general partner at Anderson Horowitz and the Justice Department's prosecutor for the infamous Silk Road case, says that all the noise about Bitcoin and crypto being the money for criminals and money laundering is all hot air. According to her and the U.S. Treasury, 99.9% of all fiat money laundering crimes go unprosecuted. And considering that fiat money represents a massively bigger piece of the pie, maybe the U.S. government should first work on stopping the money laundering issues with its own dollar before cracking down on Bitcoin. Clearly, the current system of AML and KYC isn't working. So why take that broken system and apply it to crypto? Maybe it's time for a new and improved system that actually works. If you have any ideas on what they might be, make sure to comment and let us know. Because clearly, the U.S. government hasn't figured it out yet. Well, security researchers have discovered a vulnerability on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Sar Tochner and Aviv Zohar from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem wrote a research paper describing the vulnerability. The Lightning Network works by setting up channels off-chain and then finalizing transactions on-chain when those channels are closed. Now, the network chooses which channel to send transactions through by a number of factors, including how cheap the channel's fees are. So the researchers say that an attacker can essentially hijack the network if they were to open up a bunch of channels and then set those channels to very low fees. This way, when transactions were being sent, the network would choose to send these transactions over these attackers' cheap channels. And then the attackers would just refuse to send on those transactions, and they could keep repeating this, getting transactions and then not sending them, and then getting them and not sending them, essentially gumming up the network. Now, the researchers did note that they haven't actually seen anyone use this exploit in the real world, and because it doesn't actually give the attackers access to the funds, it's not that big of a danger right now. But they did note that if the Lightning Network wants to become mainstream, then this vulnerability must be fixed. Lightning developers can help this by changing and fine-tuning the algorithm that decides which channel to send the transactions through to account for this vulnerability. Well, that was Black Hats. Stay safe, informed, and stay tuned at blocktv.com.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.